The Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-1 marked the beginning of what would later become one of the most recognizable fighter aircraft families in aviation history. Developed in the late 30s by the Design Bureau, led by Artem Mikoyan and Mikhail Gurevich, it was created to meet a Soviet requirement for a fast, high-altitude interceptor capable of defending large territories. First flown in 1940, the aircraft was powered by a Mikulin AM-35A engine that allowed it to reach impressive speeds for its time, particularly at high altitude. It offered strong performance, but the design came with compromises. The MiG-1 had a short range, demanding handling characteristics, and limited visibility from the cockpit, which made it difficult for inexperienced pilots to fly effectively. When World War II began for the Soviet Union in 1941, the MiG-1 saw only brief operational service. Many aircraft were quickly replaced or modified into the improved Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-3. Although produced in relatively small numbers, the MiG-1 was important as the starting point of the MiG lineage, laying the foundation for future fighters that would become far more successful. The MiG-9 was among the first jet fighters developed by the Soviet Union in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War. Work began in the mid-40s as Soviet engineers rushed to transition from piston-powered aircraft to jet propulsion. The aircraft first flew in 1946 and represented an early step into the jet age for Soviet aviation. The MiG-9 was powered by two turbojet engines derived from captured German designs, giving it far greater speed than earlier propeller-driven fighters. Its armament was heavy for the time, including a large 37mm cannon mounted on the nose. However, this arrangement created an unusual problem, as firing the cannon could disrupt airflow into the engines and cause them to stall. Although it entered limited service with the Soviet Air Force, the aircraft saw little meaningful combat and was soon overshadowed by more advanced designs. By the late 40s, it was already being replaced by the far more capable MiG-15. Despite its short career, the MiG-9 played an important role as one of the Soviet Union's first operational jet fighters. The MiG-15 was the aircraft that established the MiG name as a major force in global aviation. Development began in the late 40s, as the Soviet Union sought a modern jet capable of countering Western bombers and fighters. The aircraft first flew in 1947 and quickly entered production, becoming one of the most widely built jet fighters of its era. It was a single-engine jet featuring swept wings, a design choice that significantly improved high-speed performance and allowed it to approach transonic speeds. Powered by the Klimov VK-1 turbojet, itself derived from the British Rolls-Royce Nene, the MiG-14 combined speed, altitude capability, and heavy cannon armament, including a powerful 37mm gun intended for destroying bombers. The aircraft gained its reputation during the Korean War, where it fought against United Nations aircraft such as the North American F-86 Sabre and some of the first large-scale jet-versus-jet battles in history. More than 13,000 were produced, and the MiG-15 became one of the most successful and influential fighters of the early jet age. The MiG-17 was an improved development of the earlier MiG-15, created to refine the performance of the successful design. Development began in the early 50s, with the aircraft first flying in 1950 and entering service a few years later. It retained the general layout of the MiG-15, but introduced a more refined swept wing and improved aerodynamics, allowing better control and stability at higher speeds. Later versions were fitted with an afterburning engine, which pushed the aircraft close to supersonic performance in a dive. Its armament remained heavy for a fighter of its size, typically including two 23mm cannons and a larger 37mm gun. The MiG-17 gained its most notable combat experience during the Vietnam War, where North Vietnamese pilots used it against faster American aircraft, such as the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. Despite being slower, its agility at low speeds allowed it to score several victories in close combat. Produced in large numbers and exported widely, it proved to be a durable and effective fighter. The MiG-19 followed the earlier MiG-17 and marked a major step forward for the MiG Design Bureau as the Soviet Union pushed toward true supersonic flight. Development took place in the early 50s. It first flew in 1953 and soon entered service as the first Soviet production fighter capable of exceeding the speed of sound in level flight. The aircraft used twin turbojet engines with afterburners and a sharply swept wing that allowed it to reach speeds of around Mach 1.2. Its armament consisted of three 30mm cannons, giving it substantial firepower against both aircraft and bombers. Despite its performance, the design had limitations including short range, high fuel consumption, and demanding handling at high speeds. The MiG-19 saw combat service with several nations and was used during the Vietnam War, though it was often overshadowed by newer fighters. It was also widely produced under license in China as the Shenyang J-9. While not as influential as later MiGs, it represented an important step into the supersonic era. The MiG-21 was a lightweight interceptor developed during the late 50s as the Soviet Union sought a fast and relatively simple fighter capable of operating in large numbers. It first flew in 1955 and quickly entered production. The aircraft featured a distinctive delta wing and a single turbojet engine with afterburner, allowing it to exceed Mach 2. Its compact size and straightforward systems made it relatively inexpensive and easier to produce than many contemporary fighters. Armament varied by version, but typically included a cannon and short-range air-to-air missiles, reflecting its primary role as a point defense interceptor. The MiG-21 saw extensive combat service across several conflicts, including the Vietnam War and numerous regional wars during the Cold War. It was operated by dozens of air forces and built in very large numbers, both in the Soviet Union and under license in other countries. The MiG-23 was developed as a more advanced successor to the widely used MiG-21. While the 21 focused on simplicity and high-speed interception, the 23 was intended to offer greater range, improved radar capability, and better performance in a wider range of missions. Development began in the early 60s, with the aircraft first flying in 67. Its most distinctive feature was the variable sweep wing, which could change angle in flight to balance low-speed handling with high-speed performance. Combined with a powerful turbojet engine and onboard radar, it gave the aircraft the ability to operate as both an interceptor and a ground attack platform. Later versions were equipped with beyond visual range missiles, reflecting the growing emphasis on radar-guided combat. The 23 saw operational use in several Cold War conflicts and was exported widely to Soviet allies. However, the aircraft gained a mixed reputation due to demanding maintenance requirements and handling issues in early variants. Despite these limitations, it represented an important technological step forward in the MiG fighter line. The MiG-25 was developed during the 60s as a response to concerns about high-altitude American bombers and reconnaissance aircraft. Following the more flexible multi-role approach of the MiG-23, this design instead focused almost entirely on extreme speed and altitude performance. It first flew in '64 and entered service at the start of the 70s. The aircraft was powered by two powerful turbojet engines, and built largely from stainless steel rather than lighter aluminum alloys, allowing it to withstand the heat generated at very high speeds. The MiG-25 could reach speeds of around Mach 2.8 and operate at altitudes far above most contemporary fighters. Its large radar and long-range missiles were intended primarily for intercepting high-altitude targets. The type saw operational use with several Soviet-aligned air forces and gained international attention in '76 when Viktor Belenko defected to Japan with his aircraft, allowing Western analysts to examine the design in detail. The MiG-29 was developed in the late 70s to counter new Western fourth-generation fighters such as the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle and McDonnell Douglas F-16 Fighting Falcon. It first flew in 1977 and entered service with the Soviet Air Force in the early 80s, representing a shift toward a highly maneuverable, lightweight fighter capable of operating from austere airfields. Powered by two Klimov RD-33 engines, the MiG-29 offered excellent thrust-to-weight ratio and agility, making it effective in close combat. Its advanced avionics and radar systems allowed multi-role capability, though initial models were more focused on air superiority than strike missions. The type was widely exported and remains in service with several air forces around the world. The MiG-29 saw combat in regional conflicts, including the Gulf War and Balkan conflicts, where it demonstrated both strengths and vulnerabilities. While praised for maneuverability, it was criticized for short range and high maintenance demands compared to Western contemporaries. The MiG-31 is a long-range high-speed interceptor developed to replace the MiG-25 in the Soviet air defense forces. Its development began in the late 60s, with its first flight taking place in '75 and formal introduction into service in '81. The MiG-31 was designed to address emerging threats from low observable high-speed Western aircraft and cruise missiles. Based on the MiG-25's airframe, but heavily redesigned, the MiG-31 features a larger fuselage, twin-seat cockpit, and advanced Zaslon phased array radar, one of the first operational radars of its type. It's powered by two D-30 F6 turbojets, giving it the ability to sustain speeds over Mach 2.8 at high altitude. Its armament includes long-range air-to-air missiles, designed to engage multiple targets simultaneously. The type has seen limited combat use, primarily in patrolling and intercept missions, but it remains a core component of Russian long-range air defense. Its strengths lie in speed, altitude, and detection capability, though its large size and complexity make it costly to operate. The MiG-35 has been one of the most ambitious and prolonged projects in the MiG lineage. Conceived in the mid-2000s as a further evolution of the MiG-29, it was intended to provide a modern multi-role platform with improved avionics, longer range, and enhanced weapons. The first flight occurred in '07, but the program has faced repeated delays due to technical challenges, including integration of advanced radar, new engines, and modern electronic warfare systems. The MiG-35 is unique for its use of the Zhuk AE AESA radar, thrust vectoring engines in some variants, and an emphasis on multi-role flexibility, capable of engaging air, ground, and naval targets. Despite these capabilities, production has been slow and orders have been limited, with Russia continuing to operate upgraded MiG-29s as a stopgap. It has not seen significant combat, limiting real-world evaluation. The program remains in development with export ambitions, but its extended timeline and high costs have constrained widespread adoption. So what do you think? Which of these aircraft do you think could stand the test of time? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if this video helped you, make sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind every MiG ever made.